For further analysis, we're joined by Mehrdad Khonsari in London. He's a former Iranian diplomat. Welcome and thank you so much for being with us. So, first of all, I'd like to ask you, how does Tehran view this Israeli attempt to influence the negotiations that are ongoing between the Americans and the Iranians?
Well, I think Tehran views every Israeli action with a great deal of suspicion. They are concerned that this trend of negotiation, or if one wants to call it that, that began in Muscat last Friday, shows some promise that maybe it can lead to some further discussions and a peaceful resolution of the present deadlock with the United States. And they obviously see the Israeli action as one trying to work against that and trying to pressure the United States to be tougher than it needs to be, to the detriment of the Iranian negotiating position. So I think it's suspicion and disapproval and fear that Netanyahu's influence may be one that could influence Trump to act, in a more defiant way and begin military escalation, which is obviously something that the Iranian regime does not want.
There's been reporting today that Israeli sources have said that Israel is worried about Iran's progress in restoring its ballistic missile stockpiles and its capabilities to the status that it had before the 12-day war of last year. Are those concerns by Israel founded?
I think, it should be given due consideration. I think it is quite reasonable that the Iranian regime has tried in the last 6 months to try to replenish, to repair, or to try to restore some measure of, give some measure of credibility to its missile forces in order to be able to better defend itself or to try to act as a deterrent to further attacks. But I don't believe that, the equation has changed dramatically from what it was 6 months ago or before the start of the 12-day war, because they were in a prime position at that time, and the missile capabilities and Iranian defensive systems were seriously degraded. So there is some measure of truth in what the Israelis say, but I don't think it makes that much of a difference, given the overall picture and where the situation lies. If hostilities were to break out, Iran has the ability to retaliate. But how effective that retaliation is likely to be in order to determine the final course of where matters lead is absolutely, I don't believe it makes that much of a difference in that sense.
How important is this diplomatic track to Tehran, given Iran's isolation for so long? I mean, how high are the stakes here, and how important is it for Tehran to pursue this diplomatic path and have it be successful?
Well, in my view, I think military confrontation is the last thing that the regime wants at this time in the aftermath of the domestic protests, which, tarnished its reputation in an irreparable way, in my view, in the international community. But the positive side for the regime is that the regional states all have a vested interest in trying to contain this situation and prevent it from getting into some kind of a military confrontation that could affect the stability of the entire region. So that they are trying to use their diplomatic channels with regional states to create a situation whereby the talks that began in Muscat, for it to find a formula where in a face-saving way they can make the kind of compromises that would satisfy Trump and prevent the situation from escalating into war, which is the last thing that the Iranian regime needs at this time, given the dire economic situation, the internal, unrest that they've experienced. So I don't believe that they are anxious not to be cooperative. Their only problem is that the formula has to be found where they can save face before the nation, especially during this terrible time where the regime is confronted with so many problems it has never faced before in 47 years of its existence.
Mehrdad Khonsari joining us live from London, former Iranian diplomat. Thank you so much for your time and analysis.